Hi, I'm Greg, and I'm goofy-footed. Today I'm going to tell you why the Loaded Carver Bolsa is not the right board for me. It's the deck.
What do you mean?
The short version is that to me, this felt like this. Now, according to Loaded, the wheel flares were designed to provide ergonomic reference points for your feet, and I certainly knew where my feet were at all times. But mostly I felt like the front toe side flare was just in the way. Either I felt like I was standing on a rock, or my stance was narrowed to the point where I felt uncomfortable. This was most pronounced when I was skating transition that was bigger, at least bigger for me, and prevented me from trying drop-ins, which is a fairly recent addition to my repertoire. Loaded also says that the wheel flares are supposed to provide additional wheel clearance, and to this end, I'm not sure they do, at least not in the front. You can see here that the wheel bite in the back occurred under the rear flares, which makes sense, given the C2 is Carver's version of a standard truck. With standard trucks like these independent stage 11s, the wheel flare complements the geometry of the truck's design, and the wheel tucks right into the pocket created by the flare. But with the Carver design, the hanger's movement causes wheel bite to occur behind the flare.
Do you think the wheel bite would be in a different location if the flares weren't there?
I don't know. I'm certainly not an expert in skateboard, deck, and truck design. But when comparing the Bolsa with the Carver resin, I observed that the wheel bite occurs in very similar positions on both decks. And of course the Carver resin doesn't have any flares. This leads me to believe that the front wheel flares have little or no impact on improving wheel clearance when paired with the Carver trucks. But do you know what definitely does improve wheel clearance? Risers. The demo version of the board that I was able to borrow came set up with 16th-inch shock pads, loaded soft risers. Based on my riding style, I found this to be insufficient and I experienced quite a bit of wheel bite. And apparently, I'm not the only one. Visitors to Loaded's website will see that the CX version of the Bolsa is now shipping with 8th-inch shock pads instead of 16th-inch. I did confirm via an email exchange that the setup I demoed was not an anomaly, and that the CXs did in fact originally ship with 16th-inch shock pads. Now, changing risers is an inexpensive and relatively easy undertaking. Since I was planning on testing the Bolsa with both CX and C7 truck systems, I went ahead and set up both trucks with my Carver risers, two 3/16th-inch risers, which is what the Bolsa C7 comes equipped with. This greatly reduced the occurrence of wheel bite, and I only experienced it a few times afterward, and always to my heel side. You can probably chalk that up to operator error. I did enjoy the blue Orangutan 4 President wheels. I found them to be smooth, fast, and relatively easy to slide, which leads me to believe that the orange 4 Presidents may be too slippery for me and my riding style. But I also like how grippy the Carver roundhouse concaves are. As for the CX versus C7s, I own both, but I prefer the C7s. And that's really what this all boils down to, a matter of preference. While there are a lot of similarities between my preferred deck, the Carver resin, and the Bolsa, I found the Bolsa's flares to be just too much. And that's why ultimately, it's not the right board for me. But at the end of the day, my skating remained relatively consistent regardless of which setup I was riding. And that's how I'm going to leave things. The following is a short compilation of me riding the Bolsa with CX and C7 trucks. I've also included footage of me with the resin equipped with C7s as a reference for comparison. My hope is that by doing so, viewers may recognize that even despite my discomfort with the deck, my skating still looks more or less the same. As soon as they become available, links to additional footage of me riding the Bolsa with CX and C7 trucks can be found in the description of this video. I am sincerely grateful to have had the opportunity to demo this board. I encourage everyone who is considering making a Surfskate purchase to do their due diligence and try and tangibly experience it before you buy. And while the internet has a plethora of information and opinions, the only opinion that should matter when determining the right equipment is the opinion of the user of that equipment. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a chance to go skating really soon.